Today we're going to go over how to rewrite fractions with a common denominator. Then you'll have a chance to complete some of these problems on your own. Here's our first problem. Rewrite the following two fractions with the least common denominator. And you can see the fractions we're working with are 1/4 and 2/5. Now before doing anything else, I think it's always helpful to draw out these fractions. So we could draw a square and break it up into 1/4. We could do the same thing and draw another square and break it up into 2/5. Now the problem asks us to rewrite the fraction with a common denominator. The denominator of a fraction is the number on bottom. So here we're looking at a 4 and a 5. We need to start by figuring out what we should change these denominators into. To do this, we look for something called the least common multiple, or LCM for short. To find the least common multiple, all you need to do is skip count by the denominators, 4 and 5. So with 4, we get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. We could keep going. For 5, we get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Again, we could keep going. The LCM is just the first number that appears in both of these lists. So if you look through, you can see that the first number that's in both lists is 20. Our LCM is 20. This means we want to change our fractions so their denominators are 20. We want 1/4 to turn into a fraction with a denominator of 20. Well, to turn our denominator of 4 into a 20, you might realize we could multiply by 5. You could also just count that it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth skip count, so we'll multiply by 5. Now we don't want to actually change the value of this fraction, so we're going to do the same thing on top. We'll take our 1 and we'll also multiply by 5 to get 5. Now let me prove to you that this new fraction, 5/20, is the exact same as 1/4. Well, if we look at our picture of 1/4 and we break it up into 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can count that our new fraction, even though we haven't changed the amount, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pig pieces out of a total of 20. 1/4 is the same fraction as 5/20. Now we want to repeat this process with our other fraction, 2/5. We need to change it so it has a denominator of 20. We start by turning our 5 into a 20. You might realize you can multiply by 4, or you could just count that 20 is the 1, 2, 3, 4th skip count, so multiply by 4. We have to do the same thing on top. Take the 2 and multiply by 4 to get 8. So 2/5 is the same as 8/20. And again, we can show that on the picture. Right here we have 2/5, but if we break it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, you can now count that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue pieces out of 20. 2/5 is the same as 8/20. Now that we've rewritten our fractions, we have our answer. 1/4 and 2/5 can be rewritten as 5/20 and 8/20. There we go. Now let's do one of these problems together. Well, here we have the same problem, but we're looking at the fractions 2/5 and 1/6. Again, before doing anything else, let's draw out these fractions. Here's 2/5, and here's 1/6. Now, what are my two denominators in this problem? Well, denominators are always the numbers on the bottom of the fraction, so here it's the 5 and the 6. We need to start by skip counting by 5 and 6 to find the lowest common multiple, meaning the first number that both of them have. Do this on your own. What is the lowest common multiple of 5 and 6? Well, you can skip count by 5s. You get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. You could keep going. And with 6, you get 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. Again, you could keep going. If you look at both of these lists, you will find that both of them have a 30. The lowest common multiple is 30. So we need to change our fraction 2/5 so that it has a denominator of 30. Well, what can we multiply 5 by to get to 30? We multiply it by 6 because it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th skip count. And we have to do the same thing on top. So 2/5 gets multiplied by 6 to turn into 12/30. In our picture, we could check that. If we take 2/5 and split it up, we find that it's equal. There are now 12 pig pieces out of 30. 2/5 is equal to 12/30. Now let's do the same thing with our other fraction, 1/6. Well, 1/6 turns into what fraction out of 30? Well, we can start by multiplying the 6 times 5, because it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th skip count. Then we have to do the same thing on top. 1 times 5 equals 5. We can visually see that 1/6 is the same as 5/30. So when we rewrite our fractions, we can say 2/5 is 12/30 and 1/6 is 5/30. There's our answer. Now you will have a chance to try some of these problems on your own. Rewrite these fractions with the least common denominator. We'll all start by drawing out the fractions 1/4 and 2/3. Then we have our denominators of 4 and 3. So we'll skip count by 4, get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and 24. And with 3, we get 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, etc. We can see both of these have a 12. The lowest common multiple is 12. So 1/4 needs to be changed into a fraction out of 12. To do this, you can multiply 4 times 1, 2, 3. And then you take your 1 and multiply it by 3. 1/4 is equal to 3/12. We can do the same thing with 2/3. Well, to turn 2/3 into something out of 12, you think 3 times what equals 12? Well, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4. So we multiply 3 times 4, and we have to do the same on top. 2 times 4 equals 8. 2/3 is the same as 8/12. So to rewrite our fraction, all we need to do is rewrite 1/4 as 3/12 and 2/3 as 8/12. Now here's your last problem for this video. Rewrite these two fractions with the least common denominator. Well, in this problem, our denominators were 3 and 8, so we need to skip count by 3 and 8. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, we could keep going. And for 8, it's 8, 16, 24, 32, again, you could keep going. Now it takes a little while with this one, but you can find the least common multiple is 24. So we need to take 2/3 and change it to a fraction with a denominator of 24. Well, to turn 3 into 24, you have to multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then, therefore, we need to multiply 2 times 8, which gives us 16. 2/3 is equal to 16/24. We do the same thing with 5/8. To turn it into a fraction out of 24, we have to change the 8. Well, we multiply it by 1, 2, 3. Therefore, we also have to multiply the 5 times 3. 5 times 3 gives us 15. So 5/8 is the same as 15/24. Now we've rewritten our fractions. 2/3 is rewritten as 16/24, and 5/8 is rewritten as 15/24. There's our answer. So for today, remember, find a common denominator for fractions by skip counting, and then multiply as you rewrite the fractions.